Welcome to Lawsuits and Lessons, the show where we get to talk to great entrepreneurs about what's going on in their life, where they got to where they're at, insight from them, knowledge from them, just some amazing things. I'm Steve Cooper. I want to introduce my man, Mr. John Fagerholm. What's up, John?
Hey, what's up, Steve? How's your week been so far?
It's good. I was saying it's hot up here, and there's that air quality thing. So I put a mask on because Joanne was worried because I had heart issues in the past. She's like, wear a mask, wear a mask. And it looks so weird because I wear a hat and I have a mask, and all you can see is like my lazy eye and my good eye sticking out. I look like some crazy raccoon, but I got to be safe. How are you doing down there? How's Texas? I mean, you guys been hit by floods, right?
Yeah, it rained pretty hard the last 3 days, and when it rains hard here, it really rains hard. So, uh, and I live in the hill country, so uh, the roads shut down and whatever else. But overall, not bad. I mean, I still got to the gym every day, so.
All right. Well, I need to go to the gym. And I'll tell you something. We have a great guest. When I moved back from LA, I started doing business development for a restoration cleaning company called Koi. And they used to deal with this guy, our guest. And I met him, and he would have these great parties. I mean, he has this speakeasy. Like, it's got this beautiful wooden bar and Guinness on tap. He's from Ireland, so of course it's Guinness on tap. And he had harp, and he had all these whiskeys, and it was so great. And the guy is a shaker and a mover. He's always got stuff going on. He goes out, he speaks to people, he does power washing, he does salt brine. And let's bring him on. Let's bring on Mr. Colm Fidgeon. What's up, Colm?
Hey lads, how are you? How's it going? Great to see you, and thanks for having me.
You're welcome, man. So, I want you to tell John your story because you're from Ireland originally. Your story, how you got to America and when you started, your businesses.
Lovely. Now, as I tell everybody, Steve, and hey John, lovely to meet you there. I tell everybody I came across on an aeroplane. That that's how I got to America. But I'm here 35 years, I think, living in the States. I've been my passport's renewed 3 times over. I've been an elected official. And I tell everybody no matter who you are, if you come to America, you put your time in work-wise, this country will be good to you. You have to give back to America to get ahead. And when you come up the ladder of life in the States, in my opinion, when you reach back down and help people come up along with you, that lets you get to the next level. So to answer your question there, Steve, I appreciate that. To answer your question, I arrived in America for my first summer. I was 16 and a half. My mom was with me for 2 weeks. I stayed with her brother for 2 weeks, left his place, got a spot on my own, did the summer, went back. I did that for 2 years in a row, went back, and I had an extra year in high school. I did a transition year, and that gave me the confidence, and we worked a couple of jobs. Go to school 4 days, work one, and then after that summer, um, I came out to America. I did 2 summers in a row. I finished high school, and then the day after I did my last exam in high school in Ireland, it's known as the Leaving Cert. I ended up getting on the big jumbo jet, and that was in '89. And borrowed some money from the bank, and I came over to the States full time. In the meantime, I already had started my little business, at a detailing business, and I had my first business when I was 12 when I was in boarding school selling sweets. So I've always had that entrepreneur drive in me. I've watched my uncles over the years. My dad is one of 13. Yes, that's right, 13. And I'm one of 7. It's a lot to cram in, but it's the neatest little thing. And then I stayed, I lived 2 years here down in Wildwood, New Jersey, where I started off. I was pumping gas. Gas was just to give you an idea now. I might be the youngest person here, coming on 55 in November on this podcast here, but gas was 89 cents a gallon, and to mail a stamp, it was 19 cents. Now, that's how long ago it was, and a gallon's still a gallon. But we ended up did the pumping of gas. I waiter down the shore. I did cooking, detail, and then once I got my green card organized, I moved up to this South Jersey area, Lindenwold. I live in the lovely town of Somerdale, New Jersey now at the moment. I've been here 25 years in Somerdale, and that's where our family and our roots are. Um, I got a few companies. I own a Precision Power Wash. It's 34 years old. That is a fantastic business. We do a lot of commercial, residential. We have thousands and thousands of customers, and I appreciate every single one of them. We own another business called roadbrine.com that'll be coming into its 11th season now. That season starts now. We start selling the brine nationwide. We make all the equipment, brine makers, etc. We have another operation called Precision Soap. We sell the chemicals to the smaller companies. And as I tell people, you get a slice either way, you dice it, And then we have an industrial commercial lot that gets rented out. That's got 3.5 acres down on Lindenwall. So we're kept pretty busy. And God bless America.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, interesting story. So let me start off, and I have better questions than this, but the brine company interested me because I know brine just to be like the dense salt. So what is it that you're selling, and what is this brine company?
So we have our own proprietary blend of the road brine. Years ago, we kind of happenstance into that operation. There was no salt around, and we just happened to have a plenty of it. And was in the snow world. I got out of the snow world. We don't do any more snow now. Removing snow. And Texas, believe it or not, gets a lot of brine from us because of the ice storms that come in for the roads. We ship a lot down that way. But we ended up, instead of selling the salt, our trucks in the power washing side are known for bringing their water in. And we ended up filling those tanks with brine. My next door neighbor, Mary Ann, watched me make this formula. The WD-40 can that you see, that's the actual recipe number, and that's how it got its name. And same when I was doing my recipe, I had 4 little recipes made up. And Mary Ann came over. She said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'll let you know in the morning. I'm going to open up a company and sell salt water nationwide." It sounds that simple, but there's a formula to it. And brine is anybody can make brine, as I tell you. Any person can make it. The issue is you have to be able to store it. And we house 100,000 gallons of brine, and the municipalities come in. We've tankers that delivered across the country, but that did not happen overnight. People see successful people and well-to-do. They've put their time in. They've slogged away the late nights, countless nights, freezing me rear end off, as we say in Ireland, freezing me arse off, uh, making stuff and bag after bag into the hopper. And um, but once again, when you put that time in, the good news is when you look behind you, you see how far you've come, and especially when you do it by yourself. But I wouldn't be here only for other people helping me out and been good to me over the years. I know I'm on a little sidetrack there with the brine question, but it boils down to having it in stock. We ship it in Texas. We ship it down there. They just can't get enough of it, which is great. We'd love to open a hub up down that way. Maybe in another year or so, we'll put something down in San Antonio region, I think. But the brine is a seasonal business for us. It starts right now in July, believe it or not. We had a massive freeze here last year in the Northeast and across the country. Porta Pots was the biggest hit. I said hit, not with an S, hit. So Porta Pots across the country, because they were freezing and when people were peeing into them on the construction sites or doing the number two, it was just landing on ice. So the porta pots was a fantastic business this year, and people couldn't get a hold of salt. But the magic is to be ready, anticipate something if you have a business, and try and look ahead, but be ready. That's the magic. Be ready, be ready, be ready. And but the brine business it's been a great add-on. We own roadbrine.com, airportbrine.com, sidewalk, but our biggest tagline is brine before the storm.
Colm, that's funny. You bring that up about the porta potties, and when you started the business, that's how businesses just work sometimes. When you started it, I'm sure you never thought you'd be you know going into porta potties with your brine. But that's what's fascinating when you have an idea, as you said, you have to put the hard work into it. But a lot of times there's avenues that open that you would never. I mean, you would never think that.
Not in a million years. And well, I think it now, and this one company that called years ago, a few years back, said, "I need calcium brine." Now, calcium brine is nearly triple the price to make and to produce. And I said to him, he goes, I need it for the porta pots. So I said, listen, how many porta pots do you have? I had like 700. And I was like, whew, the order would have been nice, but the long game is where it's at. When you look after your customers and your friends, and even though family's tough to look after at times, but you do the best you can. I sold him the regular brine, which is the third of that price. And I said, pea does not freeze. I said, you put this regular 23% salinity brine in and people peeing in the porta pot, you're not going to have a problem. And I saved that. The guy was telling me, he goes, it's $1 billion site we're working on. And I said, I appreciate that, but I want your business next year and the year after that. The one hit wonder, it's nice and all, but the steady consistency is the way to go. So that's Steve, that's exactly how that company comes back to us. We have, I think, 18 of their locations now.
And Colm, why did you choose San Antonio as a place to expand in Texas?
We're getting a lot of calls from Texas. We advertise obviously on the web, and the problem with the Texas market for the municipalities down there is they only sell, everything's big in Texas from what I hear, and they only sell it by the tanker load. But there's nowhere to store the tanker load of brine, and that's like 5,500 gallons. You have to get a tank in. It just, and then you might not use it. Whereas we specialize in the totes, and 2 or 3 totes, you have a little storm, we ship them back up. We'll send some more down to the municipalities, and it just happens. Texas, Georgia has just been great for us. They ship all the time, and some places we make the maker. When you get to like 10 totes, you have enough to store, and we'll sell you the maker and the formula. We have the rock salt blend that we produce. We will ship that down to you, and you can make your own brine once you get to like 10 totes and you've spent a few dollars with you. We'll sell you the recipe, a bit like the KFC special spice mix. You get your franchise up and running, we'll sell you the mix. And that comes with all the insurances and everything else. So that just for some reason, and we've just been tapping that market, like not necessarily knocking on doors, but advertising down that way. And it's been working well. It's been working great. And a lot of places, then the fact that they're not spending the taxpayers' dollars on something they don't might need, they're saving. You don't need 5,000. You just might need 600 gallons of it, and that's exactly what they've been doing. And the price is spot on. It's reasonable. They're in. We make the equipment, which is cool. The spray bars and the tanks and the pumps, all that's made here in Somerdale, New Jersey. Mostly 95% with American-made parts too. Big into the American-made stuff.
So, Colm, John and I talk a lot about, and you had mentioned that you started selling sweets when you were 12. Do you think entrepreneurship is born into you, or do you think it's something you learn as you get older? Because what I'm getting is most people had that hustle in them when they were a kid. And so what's your take on it? Because your whole life, you've been an entrepreneur.
Steve, that's a great question. A couple of uncles on my mom's side and my dad's side that were entrepreneurs. Like Uncle Tom had a big bus company. Uncle Paul has a forklift operation. Excuse me, Uncle Philip had a couple of shops. My grandparents had a shop as well, like a store and lodging. I don't know if it's in the DNA where it's passed down to you, but if you see someone, it's like a switch that you you don't mind working for someone, but you don't want to work for someone. And the freedom it gives you to a certain degree. But then again, when your back is up against the wall and you have to feed yourself, or you need something, you will get very creative. Everybody will. They'll sell something like, let's take a drug addict for argument's sake. When they need to get some money together, they don't care how they get it to get their fix. They'll just make it happen. And I think that's everybody has an entrepreneurial drive. I would say maybe as kids, I'll tell you a little story. My dad's gone now. He'll be gone 2 years in December. But maybe 7 or 8 years ago, he came and out of one of seven. He apologized to me for clipping my wings when he knew well, he goes, "I'm so sorry. I didn't believe in you," is what he said. And he said, "Would you forgive me?" Now, for a parent to come back and mention that to you or say something, I just gave him a hug and I said, "That means the world to me, knowing I was doing the right thing all along and not letting the drive or the spirit diminish." You know, they say to America, "Come get your dreams, work on your dreams, or find your, what's the big one they say now? Find yourself or your purpose." Well, y- John, Steve, and Colm here, we are the purpose. You don't need a purpose to get ahead or to do something. You are your purpose inside you. And that's something I'm going to be 55 here now in November that I've only realized maybe about 6 months ago. I'm like, holy moly, if we were told that when we were kids, it's all you need is yourself. Um, so entrepreneurs are born but molded. They're molded by people that help. And it's that uncle or the aunt or a next door neighbor that sees something and goes, "Hey, go get it. You've got this." Other entrepreneurs talking to people and saying, "Stick with it." Hey, I was there once, you know, like I had a guy come in today, landed a job. I do mentorship as well, like business mentorship and people stuff. And he came in, he landed a big job. He was shaking. He doesn't even own a machine, a small machine. And I was guiding him through the process. That's part of helping other people out. I could have said, "Oh," I said, "You just got to do one thing at a time." I was explaining to him like you thought he had it down, and I said, "No, no, no." I said, I said, "We got to buy the donkey first. Never mind the cart." I said, "Let's start there." So get a cart anywhere. Let's get the right vehicle to get you into it. But people, you need that the spirit, and then the magic is if someone's listening to this, don't listen. Do not listen to anybody less successful than you. Listen to someone that's been there, done that, and has a bit of time. And sometimes I have a line that says the best way to make new friends, you can do a podcast, which is fantastic, but is to spend a few dollars with them. Spend money for that knowledge that you be years on the fence trying to figure it out, or up and down like a yo-yo trying to get it done. Spend money with someone um, that you trust, or even another business person that's not in the same vertical. A business is a business, and they all kind of ran the same. They will give you the time and share their successes, even 15, 20 minutes, a quick breakfast, their successes. But more importantly, they'll tell you what not to do. And that's the magic. If you can find out, do not make this mistake that I made, like a bit like the stove is hot when you tell the kid, don't touch it. I have a philosophy, let them touch it, they're going to touch it once. And they're done with it. They're going to remember. Like, you could tell people till you're blue in the face, try it this way, do this. It's just amazing. But that spirit comes from a spark in your heart. And if you have an idea, stick with it. Don't I hate to say this, but sometimes family are the worst dream stealers. They might have your interests in heart, but they don't get it. They don't see a vision that girl or a guy as an entrepreneur can see, and they're like, "I'm gonna do this." And they're like, "Oh, I can't believe." They'll have every excuse. Surround yourself, even if it's two or three people that say, "Hey, you've got this. Great idea. Let's go. What can I help you with?" you know, "Hey, come on now, let's work on that new logo you're trying to make." Oh, that's someone like something like that. It is just amazing. And then when you have an aunt or an uncle, like everyone goes through their bad days, and there's always an argument here, an argument there. But if you have, especially if you're younger, like when you're like in your 12s or you're 9 or 10, and you have that uncle or an aunt that goes, or someone in your life that goes, "Hey, you've got this, keep at it." A great friend of mine who's gone now, Gary James, when I got here, let me help me get my driving license, let me borrow his car. I didn't have a car at the time because you couldn't drive, didn't have a license, you couldn't drive one, so I had to get the license first. So it was just amazing. And let people help you, like sometimes, but you can take advice from people, but take advice from people that are more successful with you than you. And our retired folks are awesome to chat to, that have done like careers, they've done their education, they've lived a life. They love to have an L chat and give you and drop the knowledge. That's what you're after, is the knowledge.
Well, I think knowledge is so important. It's so funny that you also you you said being in it for the long game, and you want to, but it's also people don't understand a lot because you at a networking event. I've gone to your networking events. I throw a networking event. That networking, you may meet someone that you may never use them. Like it's so funny. I just got two texts today. My one friend who used to produce my one podcast, I know a comedian who got me my big break, got me working in Philly years ago. He wanted to get a podcast started in the area. And so I gave him to my friend. And I said, and I got a text from him. And it was like, that was never meant to happen. And then another woman texted me right after and said, thank you. She does estate sales. And a guy reached out to me. He said, oh, I met this woman at your event. You have her contact information. It's the thing, same thing is like it comes organic, I think, a lot of times. And things just happen. And the problem is people try to cram it down. Like at your event was great. It was chill, and it was like, but you're always going to have that one person we were talking about this, who was just going to give you your card. It's going to give you your card. Yeah, that's it. Here you go. Here's my card. Here's my card. And a lot of times people are like, well, what do you do? So I think it's important. I think it's always important to look to other people. And you're right. Mentorship and just getting advice, is perfect. I always say, if you want to go and get a business coach or about starting a business, get someone whose business has failed. Because then they can tell you, hey, here's where I screwed up. Don't do it. Right, John?
Well, I would say that have failed before, but have a successful business, right? Because just because you fail doesn't mean that you have learned anything, and that's part of the problem
I
with.
mean, someone's exception. I don't mean go out to a guy who's failed like 17 times and is sleeping in a box. I'm not going to do that. But yeah.
And speaking of people who are failing, there's lessons there. Like my soap line, it took me 6 or 7 years to get that launched. My precision soap line. We use the chemicals ourselves, but then before it took a bit of traction, it sometimes it takes a minute. Or when you focus on something like a laser, that comes out well for you too. When you have a mentor, or sometimes I don't realize I'd be mentoring, other people. The people just stop in and they'd ask a question or two, and I said, I'll give you 3 questions. They're like, only three? I said, well, that's one already, so get going. It's one of those things, but it's lovely to have the years under my belt, been in business, in the service business for 34 years. That's a nice, when we opened up another company, we are not on the curve as long, because we know what to do, put the systems in place, here we go, and up it goes. And it's kind of magic. Not that I'd be open at another business or portfolio in the next week or something like that, but it's nice to not scale the business, but get on the right track and get working. And the solo entrepreneur gets a few employees, and we have all these break points that happen as well. That's another long course, not one I teach, but that's a cool one too. But there.
When people come from other countries, I think they know they have to do the work, and it's because you're coming here for the opportunity. Which a lot of people don't know that. Like my grandparents, well, my mom's side were right through Austria and Yugoslavia, and they moved to Northeast Philly or this little tap room, and they came over, through Ellis Island back in. My mom was born in 1930. They came over to create a new life for them. It was for their kids. It was something that they came over and to get a life. And I think a lot of times we lose that it is the land of opportunity. I used to work with Latinos who these guys would have like 2 jobs, go from one restaurant to the other because they wanted to make sure that their family has it because they grew up in Mexico where, $7 a week was great. But here they're making in LA, they're making $15 to cook an hour. And so I think it's very important. I mean, do you think that your background and coming over at a young age instilled your work ethic in you? Or do you think you were born? That's another question. Do you think you were born with that work ethic? Because I think people were born or the way they're brought up to work. I mean, I think a lot of times it is immigrants and they were hard workers and they instilled as a kid, I always had to work. I always had to work. And I knew I had to be there early. And there's the old thing, if you're 5 minutes early, you were late. That was just like how I was brought up. But do you think your work ethic was, because you're a great work ethic, you're always out and doing about. Do you think your work ethic was instilled in you, or is it something you learned when, as you said earlier, when your back is up against the wall and you have to feed yourself?
Um, I think it's a bit of a combo. I was an altar boy. I don't like those lines right now. I was an altar boy for a few years, and my dad would wake me up, and you wouldn't want to go to serve at the mass and or the funeral, and I think it's a lot to do with your upbringing as from your parents, if you're blessed to have both of them. So I have another line, and it says, "You're only known what you're taught." So if you're taught to be a gangster, and that's what you know your life, that's what you're brought up to know. So if someone else can come over and teach you something different, well, you'll learn like a dog. They sit, lie down, roll over, whatever you want. For me, apart from my parents, been but my dad was a state treasurer. My mom was a school teacher, high school teacher in Ireland. So those ethics there you get to watch and see from your parents. But then my first job was pumping gas, and I didn't know any different. I used to do 18 hours a day, like 6 or 14 hours minimum a day, 6 days a week. And I don't know any different but to work because that was my first full time job. So, and then I've lots of energy too. I'm blessed with that. I don't have that issue of I get tired, but I'm blessed. Everyone goes, "Where do you get your energy from, Colm?" And I said, "I take it 1 minute at a time." I said, "You're not going to be able to pick your death time, so I make the most of it while I'm alive." And but I think I worked for Greeks for years, and I don't know any different, if that makes sense. And my parents were fantastic, but I was so young when I came here. I wasn't taught how I got to watch what I say, but I wasn't taught to be lazy, from manual labor kind of work, or I don't have a problem doing that. But no, if you're taught how to be a manager, let's say, or you're groomed for politics, well, that's what you know.
As an entrepreneur and you start your businesses and you have your ups and downs, how do you deal with the rejection? Because you go through rejection when you're an entrepreneur. You go through, heartbreak. Sometimes you think something's great and it doesn't work out right away. How do you get back? Because we all sit there and we can't all be positive. And we're not going to sit there and you can't kill a fifth of Jameson and some Guinness to just wash it away. How do you deal with that when something doesn't work? What do you do to get yourself?
You notice the Irish are very quick witted. So when the question came up, I just was going to ask, "Were you ever married?" When you're engaged, it's a great time, feast or fat feast all the time. And then you get married. No, not tonight. No, 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 not doing that. No way. So um, I do think that's the probably one of the worst kind of rejections men or people get in life. But anyway, I'm a big a Grant Cardone fan, and I've met him several times, and we've done all the training on the sales side of that. So when it comes to business, I've learned, like, I would be good at years ago. I would get upset if I saw someone else power wash and I thought I was the only pressure washing company in the world. I'd be bent out of shape. But you kind of learn. So now when you have a business, you have your funnel of leads coming in. We just keep that funnel wide and full. If we lose a job, let's say, um, it's not that it bothers us. We just have the funnel. We just learned that lesson that, like, we got taught that. Just keep that funnel nice and wide. But back in the day, years ago, if I would lose a customer, because I'm friends with all of them, especially on the commercial side now, um, I would be upset not for the business loss, but for the friendship loss, because I put time. We both did as parties, put time in the bank. We had dinners, going out, like you said, a few drinks here at the speakeasy, chilling, meeting each other's families. That is probably the biggest hurt, I would say, in my opinion, is losing that connection, the friendship. The business comes and goes. The business, you can get business anywhere. You just friends and good people don't show up too often in your life, and when you do have them, you try and hold on to them as best you can. I've lost a couple. Uh, Maybe they've not been on time, or maybe the friendship just expired. It wasn't that. You just never know. But how I handle rejection is I do take it personally. Sometimes if people were to say you take it personally, everyone does. There's no your feelings don't get hurt. But as a leader and as a captain of the operation here, it's my job to show people what to do. And that's part of when you're positive and successful, or when you hit a little level in life, there's no going back down from it. And it's your job just to show people, hey, here's how it's done. Suck it up, buttercup. Let's get on with it. And, you can have your pity party a little later. And there's nothing wrong with having a pity party for yourself. It's okay. Have a good cry and just let it out, and or go to a mentor and say, hey, this was what happened to me, or it is just fine, but keep that to yourself a little bit. Like, have your own afternoon. Or if things aren't going well for me, I'll just piss off and go to the movies. I don't care what's on. Just sit, leave the phone in the car, go in, watch a movie on the big screen, not just on your home, and just chill for an hour, let that brain reset. And as I tell people, the brain has never seen the light of day, but it controls your emotions. It does everything for us. It's one massive supercomputer, and in your heart, I call it a mini nuclear plant that keeps you alive. So it's if you let your brain, might get a little deep here conversation wise. The Gaelic for other person is called Ella. So we all have another person that talks to us. Like Steve and John, your brain's like, where's he going right now with this one? Let's say, right? If you can turn the Ella, the other person in your brain, off or fire that person, you will never want for anything. I fired my Ella person, I'd say my first or second week when I got to America. It was lonely now back in the day, but and especially I'd say in the last 5 years, there's only one person talking, one column, there's not two, one. And you're looking at it now. I speak what's on my mind. I'll chat to you. I'll not that I'll try and call people out, but there is a magic mindset. If you can get your mind right and have only one person in it talking about for yourself, like just have it, even when you're having a regular conversation, it's just you talking, not the doubter, not the moody, not anybody else coming in to it, just you. It takes a bit of practice. That is when it, not life becomes easier. You look at things totally different. You're like, oh wow, yeah, and like that wouldn't bother you, or you'd say something to somebody. You might say no a little quicker than but you're like, no, I can't do that, and you walk off. It just doesn't bother you. But um, that's how I handle it anyway, Steve. Just to let you know.
And what steps did you take to get to that place? Like, what are the steps?
Well, that's a great, great question. Another webinar on that. I don't think. Well, the first one is to make your mind up, and then do yourself a favor and commit to it. That's the first one. Second is be good to yourself and look after yourself. You're no good 6 foot under, as my doctor would tell me, Dr. Hoffman. You're no good to anybody if you're 6 foot under. Like, I might not be the healthiest person, like muscles and all, but I'm healthy. So, and then with practice, when I wake up in the morning, I don't touch my phone for an hour. Like, the watch will ring, and if it's no one, but I don't go near the phone for an hour. And then before I go to bed, I leave my phones down chair. I have 2 phones. They stay downstairs to charge. I don't use them all night long. I watch the TV or whatever. But even when you catch yourself, it's like a work in progress. It doesn't happen overnight. It's like anything, like fitness. You see fit people out there, and you might be a little envious of them. Give them a compliment. They work out night and day. They're at the gym. If you see someone that's like fit as a fiddle, go up and say hello. They're personable people. They're at the gym every day. Give him a high five. That is a commitment. You're talking about not loving yourself, but loving your body. Like many a gym person that hits the gym and is committed, that does their craft well, will only have one person talk in their mind. And I'm telling you, you're gonna have no one else person talking. It takes a minute. I wouldn't have all the steps just yet. I'll ponder on that, and maybe the next time we're chatting, I'll get them over to you. But I know there's about 10 or 11 total.
What made you choose power washing to start? Because you've expanded, but it's like it's something that it's, you know, there's just people don't sit there and go, oh, I'm gonna get into power washing. What made you choose that area?
Well, what happened was years ago when I worked at this gas station at Tom Sunoco there on New Jersey Avenue, New Jersey and Andrews Avenue in Wildwood. It's the highest point, just a little fact, it's the highest point in Wildwood. So if you ever need a car, if it's going to flood, Wildwood's going to flood, that's the highest point in the island. And the police station across the street's next. So what happened was when I started my little detailing business, every entrepreneur that does very well solves a problem. I'll repeat that again. Every entrepreneur, boy, girl, or whatever you'd like to be called, that solves, that's what they do. They solve problems or they make people's lives a little easier. It's in the service world, be it a plumber and everything else. So our car wash at this Tom Sunoco only did the outside of the cars. So I turned around and everyone kept asking me, would you do who does the inside? And I'm watching 15, 10, $15 going through, and I didn't refer them to anybody. So I ended up doing the inside of the car. So I said, listen, I can do the inside of the car for you. I had a 2 hour window between my shifts, and I worked at the Apollo Diner there right across the street. And I lived like, it was 1, 2, 3. I walked across to work. And I started like cleaning the inside of the cars, bought myself a Sears vacuum out of Sears and Rio Grande, and I started detailing the cars or the inside of them, and then I started waxing them. Bought a book from the library. But anyway, getting back to the power washing thing. The Cutlass Supreme wheel, the 88, 87 Cutlass Supreme wire wheel cleaner, you could not get those with things clean for the detailing business. So I bought a wee machine, and that's how I would use to clean the wire wheels with the wire cleaner. Then I needed some insurance, and no one would give me insurance for the detailing business. And then it dawned on me, I'll go mobile to people. And I started driving around, and for $20 every 2 weeks, for $20 a clip, I'd wash your car, vacuum it, windows, tire dressing, dash, air freshener for $20. And I built my route up that way. And then every twice a year, you got the car detailed. It was about $79. Now you pay $450 in 2026 or something like that. But then people ask me, hey, would you wash this for me? I got a pool deck. And I started to wash people's decks and everything else. And that was really cool. And then when I came up this way, we were Precision Power Wash. It just kind of manifested from that. And I could see something. We got our first big break with New Jersey Transit. I had a call. This is way back now. I'll be actually doing a Zoom call with my great friend Robert Diaz, Coach Dietz, tomorrow. He had called me out of the phone book we had advertised, and he was in the Toms River region. And I asked him, how come you have the Camden County book here? And because back in the day, the yellow pages would be for each county or a couple of counties. And he goes, oh no, I ordered them all online. I've got every single woman. I need somebody countrywide. I just pick up the phone book. And he had like an internet inside Google inside his office. So we landed this lovely account with New Jersey Transit every 2 weeks. And I asked him how come he picked me. And he said, well, the other guy used all my fax paper, thermal fax paper. That's how long ago it was. And he goes, I was so mad at him, I wouldn't give him the job because that was pricey at the time. But that's how I fell into the washing world. A couple of nice breaks. I think everybody gets some breaks when you're an entrepreneur, like we talked about earlier on, meeting people, entrepreneurship, your networking events. I love the word. I made it up all by myself. Friendshipping. That's what I call it. When you go out and you meet new friends, you're friendshipping and you're chatting to people, and you might end up with a new lifelong friend. You just never know, things in common or especially when people make the effort to go to a networking event to see you and support you, which is cool. And thanks for being there the other day, Steve.
Well, I had a great time. So, okay, here's something I want to ask you. You know, you expanded your company, and then you started other companies. And a lot of times I think entrepreneurs jump too early. When did you know it was first with the precision power wash? When did you know where you're ready to start hiring people? And then when did you know it was the right time to start the brine, start the soap? Because it's big things. You have this business going, but you still have the responsibility because you're the main ship. Is was it an instinct that you knew to hire people, or are you just getting too big? They had to hire them.
When I was working my pressure washing business, I did 3 jobs on top of that. You start off, most solopreneurs start off part time, and I would drive in the morning for an environmental company from 12 to 12 or whatever time. Oh, I'd go over there at noon to 6, and I detail cars and wash in the morning. And then I would do that to 6, and then I'd bus tables from 8 to 1 at the library restaurant in Williamstown, my good friend Brine down there. So getting to that level just to be by yourself and afford your own paycheck, that is one of the scariest things if you ever had a business to do. To be able to feed yourself, pay your rent, pay your mortgage. And I've always had a couple of people. I've always had an office assistant work for me over the years, and some salespeople. Uh, we have a new bookkeeper now, an accountant. You you just can't do it all yourself, and that's when you know. M- my strength would be in the people department, I suppose, and not even selling that just comes when people are ready for that. It's not a big deal, but um, like I'd love to hire another 5 or 6 people tomorrow. Uh, but I suppose it's unfortunate that every business owner, I haven't learned this trait. It compares everybody else to them, and they're not as good. But no one's going to be as good as the business owner. Some people might be, but when you own something, it's tough to find that lovely fit for personalities and everything else. But I've always had 5 or 6 employees all the time. I've never really scaled up past that, like sales reps and everything else. It's such a process for the washing world. But when you if you have some money backing you, hire someone to hire someone. Don't try and do it yourself. Like hire a professional, I would say, to get you the right, like a headhunter person to get you the right candidates lined up. Family and friends are great. You know, that could be a blessing in disguise. I was listening to I think it was a Shark Tank. They said uh actually it was Natalie Dawson said it. Um Hire slow, fire fast. So we're very cautious on who we bring into the ecosystem here at that's just the way it is. A lot of sensitive thousands, a lot of, and then a lot of information, and just like that, it's gone in one email, So I think hiring has changed an awful, oh, Lordy Lordy, it's changed an awful lot since I first started business.
Yeah, it's a different world now. We're gonna have to wrap it up soon. We're gonna have to come back on when John's working because John, I know, has a lot of questions for you because you guys have a lot in common with your businesses. But you gave some advice earlier, but we always ask, you gave some advice earlier, but what is another piece of advice you would give to someone who's a young entrepreneur? As you said, you mentor people, and you always hear different advice, and you gave, the friendshipping and all that. But give a little tidbit of your knowledge that you could share with someone who one wants to become an entrepreneur, two, they're an entrepreneur, but shit's not working out right now. Give a little bit of share some knowledge with that.
If you're an entrepreneur starting off, go with your not even your gut or your heart, your body, your whole being and universe knows you're made for something better. You're not dropped on this planet just to breathe air, poop it out, and eat and do the whole 9 yards. You're here, we're all here to work and make it a better spot. I only got this nugget maybe 6 months ago. If you're starting your own business, unless the person's doing a lot better than you are, do not pool, Poole. Do not pool anybody else's opinion. Just do it. When I'm making a decision here, buying something, we do a lot of events. So I'm getting a photo booth. I ain't asking anybody else's opinion on that. I buy a truck, 70, 100. Our truck's about $250,000 for a build out. I don't turn to my wife and what do you think? I just do it. I know it's the right thing for the business, and do right by your business, right by your customers, but right by your business first. And then stay healthy, work out if you can. But you've got this. If you're an entrepreneur or you're starting a business, watch out for those dream stealers and hang out with success. Success loves success. If you hang out with successful people, people that are smiling, see that smile? It's free. Not free to get it because you got to work on it. You got to be in the mind. Look at there's a beautiful smile there, John. That's yours, Steve. There you go. Lovely smiles. But you just never, ever, they call it dreams. People are, much of my language, people are just rotten. And when they say something negative to you, I'm not saying everyone's rotten, just for the record, but when they say something negative to you, the reason they're saying that, called a mirror of themselves. They don't have the friggin' courage to do it, to do what that you as an entrepreneur or a small business owner or a startup is doing. They do not have the courage to go through the woo, wee, like that. It's a whole up and down. And you don't even have to master that. Enjoy that journey. That's part of having a business or running a business, you know. But do not poo anyone's opinion unless they're doing way better than you. And even when I ask people's opinions sometime on something, I'm like, yeah, you just don't see it. I say it all the time. I say, can't you see that? Like, we do this, here's the magic, here's what's going to happen. So that's probably my strongest bit of advice. And that goes for every business person that's having a listen, or any mom, or if you need to do something, especially for yourself, get off your arse and just do it. Don't worry about what other people think. You know, you never know. You could be the next big hit, next wonder, the next product coming right out. Just do it.
That's great, Colm. I'm so glad you could join us today. And when John comes up to the Philly area, I'm going to bring him by the Speakeasy. We're going to come in. We're going to sit down at the Speakeasy. Now, Colm, how can people find all your products? Give all your info, websites. Give me all that.
Okay, so real quick, head to colmfidgeon.com. That's COLMFIDGEON.com. Everything is right there. My sayings, you can probably see some behind on us. Nothing fancy of a website, but it works. And precisionpowerwash.com is a big one for the washing world. But you can just email me at 10xcolumn at gmail.com. That's my own email. Send me an email there. Let me know you were with Steve and John on the podcast here, and I'll get right back to you and we'll take it from there. Cheers.
People, go do that. And also don't forget to check out Lawsuits and Lessons down there on the Spotify and all that good stuff, and the YouTube. Go check out the episodes, listen to them. You get some really good knowledge. You get some information, Colm shared a lot of good stuff, and it's always good. That's why me and John strive to get really interesting guests for you. Also, you can go to my other website, coopertalk.net. I have 1,071 episodes on there. I'm actually going to be posting Charlene Tilton. It was Lucy Ewing on Dallas. I just interviewed her last week. Wonderful. This is real quick. When she was on Dallas, when she got married, 66 million people in America watched that episode. At the time, only 230 million people lived in America. It's more than a quarter of the country were watching that. And John, if you're working, give us your insight.
Well, great interview, Colm. Thank you so much for all the insight. Really appreciate it. You're very interesting, so we're going to have to speak at a later date. We do have a lot in common, so I'm sorry my system wasn't working properly. But thanks again, Steve. Thank you for always keeping it going. And for everyone else out there, be productive.
Thank you for sharing this journey with us. Don't forget to defend my biz. John Fagerholm, look him up, hit him up. I'm Steve Huber. Thank you, Kat, for producing. Thank you, Colm. Thank you, John. And you guys have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe.